The applause was still echoing when his mic cut out. Not from tech issues, from me. I was standing in the back of the conference hall, badge clipped sideways, coat still on. And I was the one who killed his mic from the event app with admin override. Because 10 minutes into his keynote, he just described my thesis, my model, my data training method, as if he invented it during a coffee break. He hadn't seen me walk in. But the keynote title, Redefining Predictive Language with Emotion-Tagged AI, that was mine, down to the phrasing. I had proof. The night before, I'd sat in a hotel bathroom with a laptop balanced on the edge of a bidet, Wi-Fi tethered to my phone, filing the provisional patent at 2:41 a.m. Geneva time. Timestamped. Digitally signed. Logged. Filed in my name. And now, here I was. Watching my boss's boss, the guy who once told me I lacked executive charisma, ate around in a designer blazer like some tech messiah, presenting stolen work to a room full of VCs and government reps. He had no idea what was coming. Because while he slept in his $600 suite, I'd sent the filed white paper to the conference board, the ethics committee, and a quietly curious reporter from Wired who'd been sniffing around for stories involving corporate plagiarism in AI labs. And that wasn't even the real twist, because what Philip Grant didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that the version I'd filed wasn't just the patent. It was the one that exposed what else he'd stolen, not just from me, but from someone who wasn't alive to fight him anymore. 6 months ago, I was scrubbing blood off a USB drive. That's not a metaphor. It had fallen from Ethan's pocket when the medics flipped him over. Car accident on Route 22. Rain-slick road, metal on metal. Passengers. Only one survived, and she didn't walk away with much. A fractured clavicle, a twisted ankle, and a memory that stuttered like a scratched vinyl when she tried to recall the hour before impact. Me. We'd been colleagues, yes. But more than that, co-conspirators in a space that didn't want us. Ethan and I weren't trying to make a better chatbot. We were trying to lace empathy into machine learning, true adaptive emotional response, something that could de-escalate crises, translate nuance, respond to suicidal ideation not with canned platitudes, but contextual, soul-level language. A tool for saving people, and we were close. Closer than anyone realized, until he died. And VP Philip Grant showed up 3 days later, looking concerned, and asking if Ethan had shared any sensitive research with me that needed to be secured. I didn't answer. Not because I was being strategic, because I couldn't trust my face not to betray the scream behind my eyes. What Philip didn't know was that Ethan had shared it. That USB drive, the one I pocketed when no one was watching, it wasn't just backup files. It was a full paper, co-authored, pre-review, with detailed correspondence between Ethan and an ethics liaison. It also contained a buried version of the same patent Philip had been chasing since last fall. Proof the model was functional. Only one person was listed as lead architect. Me. And here's where it starts to turn. I never submitted that version, not back then. I sat on it, nursing grief like a broken rib, watching as Philip slowly co-opted team meetings, reworded slide decks, pitched his vision. When I pushed back, I was burnt out. When I corrected him in front of stakeholders, I got a warning for abrasive tone. Then came the reorg, my role, folded into R&D support. In other words, demoted without the severance. It wasn't just theft, it was erasure. But the USB gave me something else. Something Philip never found, a set of messages, dated weeks before the crash. Ethan had begun documenting something, oddities in query routing, executable flags being altered, duplicate queries traced back to Grant's credentials. He was trying to warn me. And suddenly, I wasn't just protecting my work. I was holding the last weapon of a dead man. The patent, it wasn't just revenge, it was the fuse, and I had just lit it. The first sign it was working came 17 minutes after I cut his mic. A low hum rippled through the crowd, the way bees start to stir before a storm. Philip froze mid-slide, eyes flicking toward the tech booth. He did that thing all suits do when they lose control, smiled harder. Said it was a brief interruption, that he'd continue with the key takeaways. Said everything except why a senior VP's voice had just been vacuumed out of $1 million AV setup mid-presentation. And then, like clockwork, came the whisper. 3 rows ahead of me, a woman in a gray pantsuit leaned toward her colleague and said, not quietly enough, "Did you hear the patent was just filed? Different author. Same title." The colleague blinked. "Are you sure?" She nodded. Got the alert. Name's not Grant. I saw it hit him like a silent sniper. His chest puffed on instinct, but the eyes, they cracked. You can tell when a man built on borrowed credit feels the scaffolding snap. His gaze darted to the crowd, scanning for whoever pulled the trigger. He still didn't see me, not yet, But his assistant, Tori, slick and terrified, was already on her phone, frantic texting. She slipped out the side door, probably hunting damage control. It wouldn't help, because by now, it sent it everywhere. The patent confirmation, the draft with metadata, screenshots from our internal Slack where I outlined the exact function he just described. Dated, authenticated. Oh, and I hadn't even played the voicemail yet. The one Ethan left me 3 days before he died. Shaky, rushed like he was being watched. Phil's trying to bury it. He knows it's yours. If anything happens to me, don't let him publish. File it first. I signed it over to you. It's all there on the drive. I hadn't listened to it until last night. I wasn't ready. Hearing his voice again cracked something I thought I'd buried under work, caffeine, and thinly disguised hatred. But that message, it changed the rules. This wasn't just intellectual theft. It was legacy laundering. He wasn't just stealing from me. He was stripping the credit from someone who no longer had the breath to fight him. Here's the part that turned the tide. I hadn't sent the voicemail to anyone yet, but I had uploaded it and scheduled its release. In 23 minutes, every inbox in this conference, including Grant's own, was about to receive an email titled, "This is the voice you tried to erase." And that's when the lights flickered. Literally, the room went dark for half a second. Backup kicked in. The screen behind him glitched, and I smiled, because I knew what slide was about to load next. It wasn't his, it was mine. He tried to pretend he was still in control. "Looks like we've had a little technical fun," he chuckled, eyes scanning the crowd for sympathy he hadn't earned. "Bear with us, folks. We'll be back to the core architecture slide in just a moment." Except the screen didn't return to his slide. It came back with mine. Full title, centered. No company branding. A bold black text on a white background. Emotionally adaptive language processing in neural context networks. Lead architect, Dr. Arya Salas. My name, front and center. I heard the breath suck through his teeth. Felt the silence that followed, thick, sharp, like someone had sliced the air open and left it bleeding. He stood frozen. For once, his mouth had no script. Just the sound of a man trying to control a room he no longer owned. And the audience weren't confused anymore. Because 10 rows back, the Wired journalist I'd tipped off, Kali Mendoza, stood up, pressed record on her phone, and asked, loud enough to carry, "Mr. Grant, can you explain why this presentation appears to be authored by someone else who filed a patent on the same technology less than 24 hours ago?" I swear I saw his jaw twitch. The cameras were on him now. Not his team, not his slides, him. He opened his mouth. Before a single word could slither out, the room speakers clicked back to life with a soft chime. Then Ethan's voice filled the hall. "This is Ethan Caldwell. If you're hearing this, something's happened." He sounded like he was on the run, like he knew time was a luxury he didn't have anymore. "I'm leaving this for Arya. Philip Grant's been intercepting my reports, changing attribution. I found flags in our source control. If I disappear, if this gets buried, she's the one who built it. She deserves the credit, not me, not him." Arya Salas, dead silence. No one moved. Even the tech team sat slack-jawed like their fingers forgot what buttons were. And Philip, he turned around, slowly. Like maybe if he looked long enough at the back of the room, he could will the ghost of this mistake into submission. That's when he saw me. Coat off, badge forward, calm, standing beside a conference organizer who was already reading the email I sent with the attached filing records and metadata logs. I met his eyes and tilted my head, not smug, not angry. Just accurate. He started toward me, but he didn't get more than 3 steps, because that's when the ethics committee chair blocked his path with a clipboard, and 4 little words that finally cracked his shell: "Mr. Grant, come with us." The room erupted, not loud, not chaotic, just that low, hungry buzz of 100 minds snapping into place, like dominoes learning they'd been arranged for someone else's fall. And in the center of it all, he stood alone, choked by a silence of his own making. But I wasn't done, because I hadn't even opened the drive's second folder yet, the one labeled Insurance. I opened it on the plane ride home. My hand hovered over the file, stomach a knot of instincts and dread. Insurance could have meant anything. Knowing Ethan, it wouldn't be vague. He didn't do vague. He did surgical, precision down to the timestamp. And when the file expanded, what I saw wasn't a data dump. It was a kill shot. Encrypted emails, attachments. A full PDF chain titled Proprietary Conflicts Re. Grant Labs 2021-2023. Turns out, Philip wasn't just stealing my work. He was laundering multiple projects. Internal R&D initiatives quietly shelved because they were not viable or too early for market, and then quietly resurrected under his name for private pitches. With funding, VC funding. One of the folders held a redlined contract, unsigned but annotated in his handwriting. He'd been shopping around a licensing agreement for the exact emotional processing suite 2 months before my model was demo-ready. And worse, used Ethan's original white paper as the proof of concept. No wonder he tried to scrub Ethan's name from everything. No wonder he came to me pretending to be the concerned mentor. He wasn't just betting on climbing over us. He'd already drawn the map and we were the floor. But the final file, the one that made my mouth go dry, a video. Blurry security cam, lobby footage, low res but clear enough. Timestamped 5 days before Ethan's crash. Philip, standing in the building's basement parking garage. With someone I didn't recognize at first, bald, rough build, wearing janitorial overalls but carrying a duffel bag far too clean. They shook hands. The man handed him something, an envelope. Philip glanced inside, counted, nodded, left. It wasn't conclusive, not enough for cops. Not enough to prove intent or link to a crash, but enough for everything else. Enough to poison any corporate due diligence, enough to sink every pending deal, enough to burn his name black across any background check for the next decade. But I didn't release it, not yet, because I wanted him to know I had it, to sit with that dread, to understand that I hadn't just taken back my work. I'd taken control of his timeline, so I sent a message, not an email, a couriered envelope, old school, monogrammed. Inside, one still frame from the video. 1 page from the licensing doc, posted in Ethan's handwriting I'd kept in my drawer since last year. They never see it coming when you smile first. 2 hours later, I got the call. Not from Philip, from legal. He'd stepped down. Personal reasons, effective immediately. No press release, no thank you memo, just gone. But it was what came after that chilled me. Because the woman from ethics, the one who'd escorted him out, she emailed me one line, "You should know he wasn't working alone." Suddenly, I realized the ghost I'd buried wasn't done whispering yet. I didn't sleep that night, not because of guilt, God no. I'd already made peace with that part. When someone tries to burn your name out of history and replace it with theirs, you don't feel guilty lighting the match under their reputation. No, I didn't sleep because I couldn't shake the last sentence in that email. He wasn't working alone. I kept replaying the conference, the internal meetings, weird little moments that didn't register at the time, like how the data team lead, Marcus, used to accidentally forget to CC me on release memos. Or how Tori, his assistant, had a personal Slack thread with our product leads without me, despite me being the primary developer on the damn framework. I dug deeper, pulled every internal project archive I still had access to. I mirrored folder names, cross-referenced commit logs. I compared them to the version history Ethan had hidden on that USB, and there it was. A commit tag from 6 months ago. Not mine, not Ethan's. Logged under a username I didn't recognize, N. Prather Infra. Operations lead, Naomi Prather. I remembered her, clean suits, polite to the point of eerie, always in the background during big pitches. She never once spoke to me directly about my project. Always filtered through Grant. I thought she was just another ghost in a glass office, writing out stock options. But now she was the one who pushed the commit that rerouted our logging system, the same reroute that allowed Philip to clone my neural context dataset and run it through a test environment I never authorized. She had been the surgical glove to his theft, the hidden hand that made sure I never saw the blood until it had dried. And as I kept going, I found more. Shared Dropbox folder with archived slide decks. A billing code entry under consulting research summary external partners. A 7-page exploratory briefing that outlined my algorithm, watermarked with a third-party VC firm's name. They were shopping it together. And the VC, Caldwell Bridge Capital. That name dropped in my stomach like a stone through glass, because Caldwell Bridge was run by Ethan's uncle. I'd only met him twice, but I remembered the coldness in his eyes when he shook my hand at Ethan's funeral. I thought it was grief. Now I knew better. They weren't just burying Ethan's memory, they were selling it. This wasn't corporate theft. It was intellectual organ harvesting. And Naomi, she was still at the company. Still in her glass box, probably sipping cucumber water and deleting Slack threads. But I wasn't going to expose her in an email. Wanted her face when she realized I wasn't just the girl from engineering she forgot to copy. I was the one who held every receipt, every commit log, every time-stamped, subpoena-ready breadcrumb. And I had just scheduled a one-on-one meeting with her. Her calendar request said, review of ethical audit fallout. Mine said, confession or collapse. She walked into the conference room like nothing was wrong. Tailored navy blazer, hair pinned back in that sharp little bun that probably hadn't moved since 2016. Not a hint of panic. She even smiled. The kind of tight, practice smile people give when they think they're still the smartest person in the room. I didn't offer her a seat. She sat anyway, crossed her legs, looked up at me like she was about to deliver a lecture on bandwidth allocation. "I assume this is about the patent fallout," she said, tone bored, flipping open her leather-bound notebook. "Let me say upfront, the company is committed to resolving internal confusion with as little damage to reputation as possible." I slid the USB across the table. She blinked, just once. "Funny," I said, "because this drive contains every log of that confusion, including yours, your commit ID, your VPN access to my file archive, and the Dropbox link to the pitch deck you sent Caldwell Bridge Capital." Naomi didn't move, but her lips parted slightly, so I kept going. "I also found your NDA violation in the metadata. You forgot to scrub the document signature. Rookie mistake." She closed the notebook slowly. "You've clearly done your homework." I leaned in. "I buried a man last year who didn't deserve to be erased. I've had time." She tapped a nail against the USB, light and precise. "You don't want to do this." "Wrong thing to say." "Don't." I laughed once. Cold. "Think this is optional?" Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope, the one I'd prepped for this moment. Inside, a printed transcript of the Slack messages where she coordinated with Philip on who to credit, when to submit it, and how to write me out of my own architecture. I slid that across too. "This copy, yours," I said. "The other 6. With legal, HR, the ethics committee, the board, the VC firm you fed my work to. A journalist currently writing a profile on the company's post-grant shakeup." For the first time, her hand trembled. Then I hit the final blow. "I also blind copied Caldwell Bridge's lead partner on our last correspondence. You know what he sent back?" I pulled out my phone, tapped open the message. "Please inform Miss Salas that Miss Prather acted independently. She was not authorized to submit materials under our review process. We've since cut contact." Shook her, not because she'd been cut loose, but because she realized how far behind she already was. "I could have offered you equity," she whispered, hollow now. "You stole a man's legacy and tried to sell mine on clearance," I snapped. "There's no equity in ashes." She stood, but not with confidence. She didn't take the USB, didn't take the envelope. She just walked out, legs stiff, spine cracked. I let her go. Because the real punishment wasn't coming from me, it was coming from the silence waiting outside that room. The looks, the questions, the internal audit she didn't even know started 2 days ago. Her fall would be slow, thorough, and without the dignity of denial. And me, I had one last stop to make. One person I hadn't visited since this all began, Ethan's mother. I owed her a story and a signature. She lived in a pale yellow house with wind chimes that didn't match. One said Martha's Vineyard. One had dolphins and was just a bent coat hanger with flattened bottle caps strung together. They clinked like a drunk symphony when the breeze caught them, delicate and off-key, just like Ethan would have liked. She opened the door before I knocked. "I saw the news," she said, voice low but steady. No smile, no anger, just that same quiet watchfulness Ethan used to have when people spoke a little too loud in meetings. "You really did it." I nodded, throat tighter than I expected. "May I come in?" She led me to the kitchen. Tea was already steeping. Chamomile, one mug waiting. She poured me a cup like she'd done it 100 times for someone else who wasn't coming anymore. I didn't know how to start, so I placed the manila envelope on the table and slid it to her. She hesitated. Then she opened it. Inside, a notarized form. The final page of the patent application. I'd amended the document the morning after Naomi's fall. Ethan's name now appeared second, officially credited as co-author and primary research contributor. The lawyer told me I didn't have to, that the original filing was airtight, but I didn't do it for legality. I did it for truth. He told me once, I said quietly, that he never cared about the credit, that if we helped even one person talk to a machine and feel heard, that was enough. She smiled for the first time. Small, sad. He said that to his father once, after we buried his dog. Said, "It's okay if no one remembers who built it, as long as someone uses it to feel less alone." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out a small black notebook. He kept this in his coat, every draft, every late-night scribble. I didn't read it. I didn't think I had the right. I opened it. There, between pages of scrawled formulas and midnight thoughts, was one line circled 3 times. Protect area. She's the one who sees the whole thing. I closed the book and swallowed whatever tried to rise in my chest. "I saw it," I whispered. "And I made sure they did too." She nodded. "Then we're done," she said. Not with grief, not with pain, but with silence. And when I left that house, I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean, because they'd tried to rewrite the story. And I made sure the ending was mine.